Sup y'all, Blue Guy here. Many YouTubers and my own friends, yes, I do have those, had been talking about a very popular Roblox game lately. In fact, they still do. Everyone is playing this game. The game in question? It's Dead Rails. I had heard of this game before, but honestly, I didn't pay much attention to it. That is, until I randomly saw Dead Rails on my homepage a few days ago. So many of my friends had been playing Dead Rails lately that seeing it on my homepage intrigued me to open it. That's when I saw the name of the developer, RCM Games. What the heck is intriguing about this, you may wonder? Well, I have been following RCM Games since a long time, and there were two games that I liked the most, those two being the Night Shift experience and the Graveyard experience. I always knew one was a sequel to another, and I was interested in what the story could be. Many YouTubers had tried these two games before. Eventually the craze died down. Discovering Dead Rails on my homepage really gave me a sense of nostalgia that made me check out all the games they had made with my friends. This is when I realized how deep the lore actually goes. So strap in and get ready to hear the bizarre and interesting lore of RCM Games' Roblox The Experience series. Alrighty, so as you probably know, the story apparently begins in the Night Shift experience, where the main character, after losing all their money trying to find proof of aliens, wants to get their life back together. In desperate need of cash, they decide to have a fresh start at a restaurant called Sad Burger, where they are given the responsibility of handling the drive-thru in a night shift. After going about their duties and staying in fear of the escaped murderer featured on the news, they eventually have a face-off with the murderer, where in the canon ending they shoot and survive. Now there are interesting things to note. At first you may think nothing of this weird-looking human because, well, it's a Roblox game. But there is something wrong with this human. In fact, is he even human? More on that later, though. Our little Sigma, who is now way too tired of life, I mean, can't blame him to be honest, now wants to really catch a break. But he still needs money, so he decides to work at a graveyard as a caretaker. This would be a far more peaceful and quiet job, right? What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Everything could go wrong. He then works and gets spooked multiple times by weird creatures which he is convinced are just things he's seeing, until eventually. In the canon ending, which I believe is ending 2, we see our poor guy get abducted by aliens. This is where the story of our main boy ends. A few months later, RCM Games dropped a banger trailer for a sequel that wasn't apparently a sequel at all. The comments said that this was not related to the main story in any way, and that it was a separate universe. However, that probably isn't true. I am, of course, talking about the high school experience. This game is a prequel that follows an investigator that wants to explore an abandoned school. Rumors said that a ritual had taken place here, which is the reason the school is in the abandoned, broken down state that it is. In the canon ending, the investigator sacrifices themselves to blow up the entire school, taking all the monstrosities dwelling within to the grave. Now, how do you connect a weird paranormal human, aliens, and a cult into one narrative that makes sense? Well, this is where things get interesting, so stay tuned. There is a Tycoon made by RCM Games, which is called Find Proof of Aliens to Pay Your Medical Bills. Well, now doesn't that sound familiar? The title is pretty self-explanatory. This is a tycoon where you are faced with a lot of medical bills to pay. Being the tinfoil hat wearer that you are, you decide to find proof of aliens to earn fans and money.
Did you think we wouldn't find you out here? You have lots of medical bills to pay off. Get a job or we will burn down your house.
Now this game isn't completely canon, as none of the endings make sense in the overarching narrative, but I still mention this because it has some pretty interesting details worth mentioning, as well as foreshadowing of events in future games. In this Tycoon, you write multiple articles and publish them, using your earned money to improve your lying skills, your Photoshop skills, your camera, your keyboard, and so on. The player then uses their camera to roam around the map, using the hints given from newspapers to find aliens and take pictures to upload them online and earn that $. Some interesting details that are worth noting are stuff like this campsite and this top secret door just a little further up ahead. They carry subtle foreshadowing, so don't forget about this. Now, as none of the endings in the Tycoon fit with the overarching narrative, let's just assume that either he paid his medical bills and wants to move on, or he paid his medical bills and the FBI secretly erased his memory, judging by the surprised tone of his voice in the graveyard experience during his first alien encounter in the game. Not quite sure which one, but we can safely assume the medical bills are far behind our MC, and that they now want to forget about their entire past and make a new beginning. Now the question arises once more. How do you connect all of this? Well, I believe the narrative spans across 6 games in total, or 7 if you want to count Night Shift 2 as a separate game. I believe the story all begins with the high school experience, as the description of the game says. And I quote, "In 1991, Crimson Crest High School was a thriving school. Just a year later, it was suddenly abandoned. The official statement from the district was that the school flooded from burst pipes. However, the students know what really happened. Rumor is, a student messed around with a dark ritual, creating something that roams the school for years to come." Now, what is this dark ritual? Well, you get a little more info when the game is loading. In 1991, a student named Danny Darkwell was struggling with his grades. Danny was approached by a cult that promised that a simple ritual could help his situation. The cult had no intention of helping Danny. Instead, they tricked him into creating something that abandoned the school. I believe he was tricked into reawakening MOE. As you can see in the second part of the game, on a script written on a sort of podium, Mo was summoned 7 years ago. He was a gift to the cult from the Star People, and the cult wants to protect MOE's power from those who want to spread evil and destruction. Who are the Star People? You will know soon, if you can't already tell. Now, as the investigator explores the school, they notice many notes left behind by a previous explorer called Rico Miller. Yeah, that's the name of the owner of RCM Games. Anyway, the explorer's notes seem to describe multiple things about a monster roaming around. This monster is nothing like what we have seen, and it doesn't seem to have any important lore implications. After all, it just appears in the first half of the game and doesn't seem to have anything to do with the cult members or MOE. It couldn't possibly be the being that was accidentally awakened by Danny Darkwell, as we know that the being awakened by the ritual was MOE. So, who is this? Do you remember that when you finish the canon ending, where the investigator sacrifices themselves to explode the whole school, the final text says that after the explosion, MOE and Danny were destroyed. The explorers were never found. Danny was destroyed, but we never saw another human throughout the entire gameplay, unless we count the cult members who, to be honest, are no longer human due to what they dragged themselves into. So, who is Danny? I believe Danny was the monster we see in the first half of the game. The ritual corrupted him, taking away his human intelligence but keeping some memories, which is why, according to Explorer Note 5, the monster seemed very protective of a ritual site down in the basement. Now, during the last phase of the game, where you're to turn on 5 boilers to destroy the school, you come across 2 very interesting rooms. First is this one. Yes, these appear to be the same aliens we have seen before. What are they doing here? Why are they enclosed in class containments like this? Well, here's what was in the other room. Yep, the same black humanoid that tried to kill our original MC in the Night Shift experience. There is an axe sticking out of its glass containment, making it seem like someone attempted to break him out, but they left the axe there. Probably because it got stuck, or because the one inside intervened. Now remember, the high school experience is the game that starts it all. So this is canonically the first time we see this guy in the timeline. This is its first appearance. This humanoid and the aliens being here perfectly prove that everything is connected. But how? How was this unknown organism released from its containment, and what does the cult and MOE have to do with any of this? How are the aliens concerned? This all is answered in the next game that canonically takes place in the timeline. Nightcrawler. When you spawn in the lobby, the first thing to note are your surroundings. You are at a campsite. Yes, a campsite. Remember when I told you that this goofy Tycoon right here has some heavy foreshadowing? Well, this is what I meant. After starting the game, you find yourself chilling alone or with friends when you receive an emergency alert on your radio. You are requested to evacuate the area immediately. As you get off your car to check the screams of someone in campsite, you realize that there is a huge hole in the ground. Does it belong to some animal? As you enter inside, you are surprised to see that it is a huge secret underground base. The first thing you see is the janitor, who locked himself in to protect himself. After you fail to save him from a monster with giant eyes, you come across this. This reveals a lot of things, such as the fact that this is a secret government base which was hidden underground. This is a base where the government was secretly trying to reconstruct MOE, whose brain survived what the body couldn't in the high school incident which took place the previous year. MOE's eyeballs creepily follow you around as you search around looking for the password required to exit this place as soon as possible. That's when you come across two very important things that add to the lore. First is this chalkboard, which is teaching, I assume, new scientists joining in on the MOE reconstruction project on how MOE affects its surroundings. It says this: when a worm is exposed to the cells grown from MOE, hyper-evolution takes place, transforming the small invertebrate into a bipedal monster. If any worms get exposed to the cells, destroy it with hammer immediately. Now this tells us two crucial details. First is that the big-eyed monster roaming around is a hyper-evolved worm that was exposed to MOE. Second gives us more insight on what happened to Danny Darkwell. The poor kid was probably exposed to MOE after unintentionally awakening it and went through a grotesque hyper-evolution that turned him into a horrible, disgusting creature that was to roam the schools for years to come before meeting his end in the 2005 incident. Now, what was in the second room? Well, this. Here you can see the same aliens and glass containments found in the high school experience. They are labeled as star persons, which finally reveals to us who the ones that presented the cult with MOE were. Other than that, we see the heart of MOE, the same black humanoid creature labeled as an unknown organism, and a cult member post-explosion. This gives us insight on a lot of things and answers a lot of things as you piece the clues together. Now, after you free the unknown organism as a deal by MOE to get the password from the ladder to escape the place, watch how MOE seems to transfer his consciousness into the unknown organism, answering many more unsolved questions and helping us piece more of the puzzle together. This means that even today, MOE is at large. It was MOE in a new body that attacked our original protagonist in the Night Shift experience. The unknown organism served as a vessel for MOE to possess and use as his own new body. A body that is capable of going into your dreams and give you nightmares. A dangerous body that is capable of teleporting and moving about undetected was unleashed by the desperate campers that night in 2006. I believe MOE and the unknown organism's body searched for Sad Burger for a reason. Think about it. Why is everyone so obsessed with Sad Burger? There is something fishy going on that we don't know about yet. After all, it is revealed in the Night Shift 2 that several barrels of radioactive waste were stolen, and they just happened to be in the basement of the restaurant. And the boss knew about it too, as he clearly instructed the new employee doing the night shift to place the boxes next to the barrels in the basement. So here's what I think happened. Many centuries ago, aliens arrived on Earth and gifted a group of people a being known as MOE. The legends and the rituals were handed down to the next generation, leading to the descendants, the cult of 1999, that decided to sacrifice a student to summon MOE once more, a gift given generations ago by the Star People. The student Danny Darkwell succumbed to the radiation of MOE and started roaming the school as a mindless monster, killing trespassers that entered. This was how it was till 2005, when an investigator wanted to get to the bottom of this once and for all. Till that time, the Star People might have tried to establish contact with the cult to set their plans of conquest into motion. A few of them must have been sent as messengers, unarmed, thinking that the cult would recognize them as the Star People and welcome them with open arms. However, the cult didn't seem to recognize these aliens as the Star People and slayed the unarmed extraterrestrials and sealed them alongside the unknown organism's body, which might have been given by the Star People as a backup and preserved for generations, or created by the cult under precise instructions of MOE. All of this, however, went to waste in 2005 with the arrival of the investigator, who exploded the whole school, taking his own life and everything residing within the school alongside him. However, the contained star persons and the unknown organism seem to have avoided the fatality of the explosion of the school, which was then raided by the government and taken to their top secret base near the campsite. Sound familiar? Yes. The top secret door from the Tycoon seems to lead to the same base that you enter in Nightcrawler. Another detail that proves Nightcrawler happening a year after the high school incident, apart from the description of the respected games, is that there is an axe sticking out of the unknown organism's containment in the high school experience. But the axe is not there in Nightcrawler, which means it was already taken by the investigator back then. I believe the Tycoon, or at least the main events of it, as the endings all seem to be non-canon, takes place between 2005 incident of the high school and the 2006 incident of the campsites. Our original protagonist ends up finding many proofs that aliens exist, to the point where the Star people might have started considering him a threat. Right after that, a few years pass when on 2016, our original protagonist ends up losing all of their money once more in attempts to find proof of aliens. They go to work at Sadburger, by which time MOE is already operating freely in the unknown organism's body, having transferred his consciousness during the events of Nightcrawler. After surviving by shooting reborn MOE, did you notice the suspect is still on the loose no matter what ending you get? That was a clear hint from the beginning that we are not dealing with an ordinary human. In fact, the only reason the news reported probably described it as a murderer on the loose who escaped in a pickup van was probably because they were hushed up by the government, who didn't want the public to know that an unknown organism's body such as this ever existed. I believe the Night Shift 2 takes place during the Graveyard experience after 1 year since Night Shift 1, when the original protagonist leaves the drive-thru. The Star people have divided into two groups, one to either relocate MOE and slay the only living ordinary person who has seen him so far, that being our original MC, and one to take over Sadburger. I believe that the boss was manipulated by the Star people and was convinced by them to keep the barrels of stolen radioactive waste so the aliens could carry on their plans of taking over the restaurant. They stole the radioactive barrels precisely to create the burger-headed monster that roamed the place during the events of the Night Shift 2. However, their plans of taking over the restaurant as base of planning operations was thwarted by the brave new employee who was probably never going to work there again, lol. There was probably also an accident related to the taming of the burger-headed creature that resulted in this scene. The reason the 2006 incident was broadcasted on the news in the Night Shift experience too could be either because MOE is going back to the campsites for some plans of his, or because the government kept this news hidden until this year so that nobody would be able to dig too deep into this. While this is going on, we witness the events of the Graveyard experience, where our original protagonist meets their untimely demise at the hands of the Star people, who have taken Agent Adams as well to establish dominance alongside the only living ordinary citizen who had witnessed the rebirthed MOE, that being our original MC. Finally, after this, we get to the events of the Nightmare experience, where the actions of the rebirthed MOE are recognized. He seems to be putting citizens into nightmares and has been dubbed the Nightmare Man. Rebirthed MOE, or the Nightmare Man, clearly looks like a very intelligent life form. It possesses supernatural powers such as teleporting and invisibility. It seems to stalk its prey and show it's there before attacking, and seems to be able to manipulate technology as well, judging by the emails sent to the protagonist of the Nightmare experience, which takes place in 2019. With the chilling thought that such a powerful supernatural being with malicious intent roams the world freely, the timeline ends officially with the Nightmare experience. The lore has a lot of potential, but it has been left hanging as of now due to RCM Games cooking up updates for Dead Rails. This isn't a bad thing, and I congratulate Rico and all the others in the development team on hitting such a great milestone with a successful game like this. And I'd like to congratulate Just Friends, who may be forgotten by now, but their contributions to RCM's success will never be forgotten. Now, this is a message to everyone who watched so far. Go check out these games and show you want more of the lore so that Rico can cook up updates for Dead Rails, as well as consider adding more to the awesome lore of this underrated gem of a series found on Roblox. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the yappery this video contained. Thank you all for watching, and see you around.